Okay, for this stage, what you're going to do is drill the 5mm hole here. Make sure you've got your safety goggles. So what you're going to do is, you're going to place your piece here. You're going to line up the drill bit. Just make sure that the gauge here is up. Alternatively, I can also higher the table. So that's what I'll do in this case. Just rise the table so that's closer to the work. Obviously not touching. Line that up. So if you do this in a buddy system, that will be best. So one person lines it up here like this. The other person gets the G-clamp. And holds this down. Now you will notice that on the side here, I'm drilling towards the edge of the table, and you'll notice that the table here on the pillar drill is tilted towards the side. It's moved towards the side. Okay, so that's the way that you will need to do it for this piece. Otherwise you won't be able to G-clamp in the center. So just double check again. Okay, I'm right on my point here. This is secure, it's not going to move. I can turn on my pillar drill here. Obviously the red button here will turn it off. And I've also got a foot stop on the bottom. Now before I drill, I need to make sure that my gauge here is correct. So my piece here, I've got one 6mm and two 4mm, so that's, if I add them all together, it's 14mm. So I can see here, if I lower my gauge here, right down, there's a ruler here, so I can see the top of my gauge here on the piece that I've moved down is 50, let's say 56mm. So if I add on 14mm, that's going to bring me to 70. So basically I don't want to drill all the way to this metal table and through this plywood here. So that will just allow me to drill a small bit down through it, but obviously enough through your piece. So turn it on. Can't drill any further. This is touching. Turn it off there. You will do the exact same thing for your second piece also. So once you've got your two holes drilled, what you need to do is remove the double-sided tape. So you need to prise these open. Now this can be quite tricky, so I've just prised this open just a bit earlier. So that's come off quite nicely. Now you need to remove the double-sided tape. Just place that to one side. Remove this also. Now you want to remove all of the double-sided tape, so that way when you go to glue it, the double-sided tape isn't going to interfere with the wood glue, with the PVA glue. Once you get to this stage, once you've removed all the double-sided tape, I would label this with my initials on every single piece so that doesn't get mixed up with someone else's. I would label this 1, 2, and 3. And I'd label this A, B, and C. That way you don't put A, 3, and C together. Okay, so that you'll be able to keep the right ones together, because that's very important, otherwise it won't go together at the end. So you need to make sure that you label them. So number 2 is going to be my middle piece. So I can also label this mid. B is going to be my middle piece here. I can label that mid. So it's on the 4mm pieces. That is a common mistake the students make. So you need to make sure it's the 4mm piece and label them as well correctly. So I need to create this slot here. So let's say if I'm going to go with a 30mm band, so it's going to be a bit bigger than this one. So I'm going to measure each side of this here 15mm, and that will give me a total of 30 for the width of the band. So what I need to do is get my steel ruler, measure 15mm each side. Get my tri-square, draw my line down. That line doesn't need to go the whole way down, it just needs to match up with the 15mm line. So up 15 here. Now I won't be able to use my tri-square here because this side is not straight. So I may need to just measure down, find this measurement here. So this is, let's say 51, just carry on that measurement each side. So if that's 51 here, that will be 51 here also. And that way I can simply join that using my steel ruler or a straight line. Now repeat that process for your other middle piece as well, and we're going to cut this using the scroll saw. So using my scroll saw, I'm going to cut down this line here. So I'm going to cut down here, let's say that's 1. I'll try and cut across here. That will be 2, and this will be my 3rd line. You don't need to label those, but just for the purpose of this demo. Okay, watch your fingers on this. I can also lower the guard down slightly so that my piece doesn't rock. You need to make sure that you hold on to your work. I'll show you what happens if you don't. So if you don't hold on to your work, it makes a lot of loud noise, and that's even louder if the guard is held up. So you need to make sure that your guard is down, just above your material. Tighten it in. Make sure that it's not touching the blade here, the guard. So that'll stop your finger from hitting it. Turn it on. So once I get to this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop and I'm going to rotate it, but the machine will need to be turned on. Once I get to this point here, I'm going to stop and I'm going to rotate it so that I can cut this horizontal line here. So the machine needs to be turned on before I do that. Slowly rotate it 90 degrees and I can cut across my horizontal line now. Make sure that you keep this piece. You will need it later on when we go to drill another hole. So make sure that you keep this piece, and you will repeat the same process for your second one as well. Make sure that you've got all the double-sided tape removed. Otherwise, if it's not, it'll get stuck to this, and when you're cutting it, your fingers could go into the blade, and it's also really difficult to move. So make sure that all double-sided tape is removed. So you're left with 2 pieces cut out. When you put the 2 together, these should be basically the same.